Alright, I just wanted to give a quick update video in terms of what I've done with Branded and how I'm currently playing the deck now and going forward, particularly after the announcement. Before it was just leaks, but now it's been officially announced so we can take it seriously. The Superheavy Samurai cards are coming to Master Duel, and there's a very high probability that that deck is going to be the next meta deck until it receives ban list hits in some capacity, whenever that may be. So straight away, we can see some very noticeable changes to the deck. Standout card here is swapping to Droll and Lockbird. Droll and Lockbird is, generally speaking, a pretty good hand trap. It is exceptional against Superheavy Samurai and can effectively kill their turn if you resolve it. The chance to resolve it against them is rather high because they can't run Called by the Grave, they can't run all of the general answers like Crossout Designator and so on, right? Because they can only run monster cards. So unless they have, like, I don't even know what the hand trap's name would be, but unless it's a hand trap that stops a graveyard effect like this, hand trap graveyard effect like this, then they're screwed. And I bet there's only probably one of those, so it's like, what, 3 cards out of their 40 card deck, right? Like, the chances of this resolving and being good is very high. I'm using it even now before the decks come out, and it's pretty much every game I've resolved this card, I can tell it's done work. It kills turns, it is a great card. It's only an SR too, so it's not even hard to make. I want to note that it's actually a soft counter to Maxi. So what'll happen is, like, they'll do Maxi and they get a draw off of it, and then you can Droll that, and then their Maxi, because it's a symmetrical effect and a lingering effect, it will be sustained for the remainder of the turn. So you'll see, like, they draw one, you Droll, and then whenever they attempt to draw one again, they can't because Droll's lingering effect is active, so Maxi is effectively countered for the turn. And there is a very, very minor synergy with Branded in High Spirits, because Branded in High Spirits asks for you to reveal a monster from your hand and send a level 8 fusion monster from your extra deck to the graveyard with the same type that is 2500 attack or defense. Droll is a spellcaster, and so is Granguinal. So what you can do is you can, if you have a hand with both Droll and Branded in High Spirits in it, you can, and not like Albaz or some like other good target for this, right? You can Droll away, or you can Branded in High Spirits, pitch Droll, which, let's say your turn 1, it's not going to be doing anything anyway, unless they like Maxi you, and even then we can, play around that. And then you'll pitch your Granguinal, and you can get like Quem or Cartesia or Mercurier in very specific scenarios, or even like Springin's Kit if you want to just if you have Called by in your hand and you just want to fish out Branded Fusion, right? So like there's a lot of things you can do. So I think this is a really good tech card now and going forward. So totally worth getting used to playing this. Other than that, the deck looks pretty similar to what it was before. Notable change in the extra deck is I've added back Mud Dragon of the Swamp. This will be very important going forward. For a lot of December, I cut this card in favor of, like, pretty much any other fusion really, because I just wasn't making Mud Dragon very much. I was kind of just auto-including it for those fringe matchups where I just didn't want to leave any holes with Super Poly. I always wanted to resolve Super Poly. But now, because between these two, you're basically going to always have a Super Poly target on the field, assuming they've actually played their turn. But I gradually realized over the month of December that those fringe case decks kind of just get beat up by branded anyway. So, yeah, didn't really need the Mud Dragon. But now that we're back to actually caring about Mud Dragon's materials, it is, yeah. Let me go ahead. I'm gonna make a quick jump cut, and I want to show you a Super Heavy Samurai core, we'll say, list. Hold on. All right, so now that we've talked about the deck, let's talk about the next big boy in the format, Super Heavy Samurai. First start. In the deck profile I just showed you, you likely noticed that we're back down to 1 Saronir, 1 Lubellion. That is intentional. That is because all of the Super Heavies are Earth, except the Pendulum Scale one, which likely, I mean, like, even if this for some reason were to end up in the graveyard, like, you're not really going to get anything off of banishing this, right? Like, I'll zoom in a bit more so you can see their attributes, but you certainly can't read the cards, but you can read the attributes. I think this is Wakaushi. Is she currently in... Oh no, this is one of the new guys. Anyway. Like, other than that, it's just all Earth. It's all Earth. And if we look down at their extra deck, right, and all their little choices here, like, what do we got? We see Baronne de Fleur. I know in some lists I saw Apollo Usa. I don't see her here, but I know no, that's a different card, I think. But I've seen in some lists that they'll go for, like, Baronne, Apollo Usa, and there's just such a, like, if you look at the cards, most of them aren't light or dark. You got just tons of not that. Like, you got Auroradon, Baronne de Fleur, although Auroradon likely wouldn't stay on the board. It's used as, like, a combo piece. And, like, let's say they get to, like, Dispater, Borreload Savage Dragon, right? Like, you're just gonna make Garura off of that. So just a lot of stuff that Mud Dragon wants to see, because there's a lot of mismatched types or attributes and types here. Like, let's say they make I don't know, they finish on like Baronne Apollo's probably the best example, because Baronne is a warrior, I believe, as I double check. Pretty sure Baronne's a warrior. Yeah. And Apollo Usa is a fairy. And then you have, like, Baguska here, for example. Baguska's an earth. He's an earth... An earth what? An earth fiend. I'm pretty sure all the Super Heavy Samurais are, like, machines. Yeah, they're all machines. And then, like, in here, you see Regulus, right? Therion King Regulus. He's also an earth machine. So that's, like, another Garura target. And, like, the list just goes on. So really, I feel like it's gonna be pretty important to have these going forward. And I'll load up this image here. This is a dueling book screenshot off of the Discord, and I will zoom in on this so we can see it a little better. And obviously you can see, like, I believe these upstart goblins are just like random cards in the hand, and really the only two cards we care about looking at here are Jizukiru and the bike. But you can see, like, they got their pendulum scales, and like they have a 3 material Apollousa. They have a Barone on the board, and they have a Therian King Regulus on the board, who likely, you know, brought back one of these guys, right? So Super Poly goes so hard here. You Super Poly away Apollo and Barone. That's 3 negates gone, and their Omni negate gone. And you create Mud Dragon to prevent, like, future targeting and whatnot. But I mean, I'm gonna be real with you. If they see you Super Poly away their Barone de Fleur and Apollousa, they're probably just gonna scoop out of the game. They're probably just gonna leave. I ran into that problem a lot with Dragon Link, and that's why I couldn't get any good replays showing them off. Was because I would Super Poly away 2 of their Dark Dragons into, like, Borreload Furious Dragon, and then they just leave the game. They just, like, that's not even a good replay to show. It's like, oh hey, I Super Poly'd their 2 guys and they immediately scooped. So yeah, this is overall what we're looking at. We're looking at, like, a bunch of negates. It's a bunch of negates again, and their follow-up's pretty good too. So this is, for all intents and purposes, this is a scary deck to deal with. So I really want to just maximize that chance that we see Super Poly as much as possible. That's why I left the grass version behind, because I just want to see these hand traps. I want to see these hand traps. I want to see them as much as possible to give myself the best chance possible. Changes you can make to the deck. You don't need 2 Retribution. I prefer it because it just makes the deck more comfortable to play. I'm not hurting for deck space. I'm all the way down to 44, and I don't think going to 43 is going to make a particular difference. Branded Banishment is also cut from the deck. So this is one of our more go-to sets that we can now have. Ad libitum. If you feel like playing Ad libitum, you can literally just add him to the deck. Don't need to make any other changes. Just add him to the deck. Which I may or may not do, honestly. I will admit there have been some situations in which I've missed, quote-unquote missed. I've missed being able to do the line in which I will Cartesia Granguinal, right? Cartesia into Granguinal with whatever. And then I will, because this is a 6 or higher lighter dark, this is a level 8 dark, I'll actually use Granguinal to pitch the Ad libitum if I had some other way to get Albion into the graveyard that turn, such as Branded Fusion into Albion, resolve some effects, and then Lubellion effect from the pitch from the Branded Fusion to get this into the graveyard to play Lost afterwards. And then, you know, Albion's already set up in the graveyard, so I don't really need anything else. Maybe Titaniclad if I can't find my way to Quem, right? But if I can make Granguinal pitch Ad libitum, set Branded in red, I mean, like, that solos a lot of decks. Like, that is great. Like, that didn't stop being good. Like, Ad libitum in graveyard or hand, and then you Branded in red, target, you know, like Tragedy or one of the Albazes or what have you, and you pitch like Mirror Jade, Ad Lib, and then like the other guy you care the least about, you know, well, if it would be in your graveyard, Tragedy wouldn't be an option. It is generally the target in the graveyard. But, you know, whatever third monster you care the least about, whether it be on the board or hand, and you either pop 1, pop 2, and then draw 1, draw 2, non-targeting destruction, probably going to be pretty good going forward. So, I may tinker with having Ad Libitum in the deck, but for now he isn't. But it could, like, that's literally the only difference I would consider making at this point in time. I'll fiddle around with the card for now, but like I said, this is what I intend to play at the start of the season, and I'm currently playing it. I haven't played a ton of games. I've played about, I want to say, like 25 games total this season so far, and this deck hasn't lost a game yet. I mean, it's the best deck in the format, and after the ban list, I'm sure Dragon Link's gonna take a I don't need to tell you that, like, Dragon Link's about to get a lot worse, and like Branded effectively dodged the ban list. But like, yeah, Branded's the best deck in the format, and unless Superheavy Samurai like really pops off, it's gonna continue to be the best deck. However, it is worth saying that Superheavy Samurai would likely be a damn good, like, contender for the top spot. Enough to the point that I'm willing to build around having to deal with the deck on a consistent basis. Certainly because of New Toy Syndrome. New Toy Syndrome is very strong. So that's what the Droll's for. And yeah. I would like to quickly talk about Gimmick Puppet. Gimmick Puppet, oh boy, oh boy. So we are now leaving what I would consider to be a bestial format. As you can see, I've cut my bestial count to 2 guys, only one of which can deal with a Gimmick Puppet. The other one's like Called by the Grave, so I have 3 cards in my deck that deals with this thing. But what I've noticed is that most people just aren't playing Branded anymore. People watching this video, and myself excluded, it feels like about, I want to say 2 weeks, two and a half weeks, I want to say, from when the pack released. I swear Branded's representation, or rather popularity, I should say, just took a nosedive. I see the Branded mirror like once a week now, ever since like the second week of after the pack released, right? 2 weeks after the pack released, people are like, all right, I'm good, no more Branded. No more Branded, no more none of that, right? Because the deck is hard. I think Branded is objectively the hardest deck to play in the current meta format. And the next pack is not going to change that. Superheavy Samurai is honestly not hard to play from what I've seen. They're a combo deck, and they're effective at what they do. Kind of like, it reminds me of like watching Math Mech play, but with like a lot more generic extra deck monsters. But so that's like the vibe I got. A lot more comboing and a lot more generic extra deck guys. So yeah, that's the new deck profile I'm going to be using going forward. You can experiment with ratios such as adding a second Quem, ad libitum like I mentioned, and so on. I would like to mention that staying 45 cards or under is what I would consider to be pretty good. Less is more, of course. So, like, this is obviously pretty good. Like at 40, 44, 45 cards, I think you're pretty likely to see like either Droll, Maxi, Super Poly, or something, just something to help like chew through all the bullshit. Because again, like if we go and look, right? If we go and look at this board, like let's talk about their board and what trying to play through it would look like, right? Let me scene transition here. Back to this. Cool. Like what do we got here? We have 3 monster negates, an Omni negate, and then like another Omni negate. So that's 5 negates that you have to chew through. 3 of which are monster only, but like most of Branded's effects are monster effects. And the spell effects you're doing are generally critical. So being able to super poly away like these 2 guys is like mission critical. I want to see super poly in my hand every game. And I'll be honest, for the past month, I don't think I've lost a game ever. And I mean this. I don't think I've ever lost a game where I had super poly in my hand, going first or going second. You can set the card. It's still a great card to set. Because it's a quick play spell. So even if it's in your opening hand, you can just set the card and destroy them on their turn. Like between Albaz, Super Poly, and like all the other horse shit you're doing to them during their turn, it's so hard to overcome. And if you were to, Super Poly away this Apollo and Baron de Fleur, so they went from 5 interruptions to 1. It's a big difference. Tackling a singular Therian King Regulus does not bother me. I can fight him all day. I'm not worried about a singular Regulus. Like I'm confident that if I see this board, right, because this is their general board that they're going to end on most times, or at least this is what's considered the standard board. If I have Super Poly and I take these 2 away, I'm probably killing them that turn. Full stop. I'm probably killing them that turn. And they won't get their follow-up. There won't be another turn. And if there is, their board's been so dismantled they have like nothing left. Certainly to the point where they won't want to play the game and they'd likely just leave. Because something else to keep in mind is that a lot of Master Duel players are just very scoop happy. If you mess with their game plan enough and make them have to like really work for a game, most people just quit. Full stop. Most people will just quit the duel and go play a different person. Like, and it's a very like weird skill to have, to be like, a lot of people do it out of rage, but there is like a competitive aspect to it where it's like, oh, I could like try and fight this guy for like 15 minutes and I might win, or I can just go next and like probably win in like 5 minutes, right? So that's where that deck is. Anyway, that's what I'm doing going forward. This is the deck. I mentioned edits you can make. You can add the gimmick puppet. You can add another Quem. You can add the ad libitum, right? You can add him too, right? But you really want to stay under... I think you want to be at 45 cards or less. Something I've noticed a lot of decks doing is that they're trimming 1 copy of Fallen of Albaz. I will say that I haven't had the 3rd copy matter a lot, but it does make the deck a lot more comfortable to play. Unless you're exceedingly confident in your ability to manage resources, do not remove the third Fallen of Albaz. I would keep that. I think removing the third Fallen of Albaz requires a like professional level of play with this deck to be able to do so reliably. I cut him and I noticed it. I've been on and off the third Albaz just to try it out, right? Because you gotta try it to have a proper opinion on it. I've had it matter twice. So I do think there are some downsides. And honestly, for the cost of going up one deck slot from like, I mean, like, let's look at my list before, like, is the difference between 44 and 43 really enough for me to warrant cutting the third Albaz so that I see a, you know, Super Poly and like Maxi Droll or whatever, a like kind of not negligible, but like marginal difference in how often I see these. But, you know, more is, you know, more of them is more of them at the same time. But simultaneously, I don't want to see more than one copy of each in my hand. Well, actually, Super Poly. I draw like 2 Super Polys like sometimes, and it's still like a busted ass card. Super Poly is the exception because this doesn't have a once per turn on it. But for, you know, fair and balanced Yu-Gi-Oh cards like, you know, Droll and Lockbird, not Maxi, this card's disgusting and should be banned. But for like regular Yu-Gi-Oh cards like, you know, Fallen of Albaz, Cartesia, Quem, and all them, they have like this nice little phrase once per turn on them, on like all of their effects. You know, Super Poly is just like, discard a card, break their board for like, you know, for nothing. Go on, do it. Take away 2 of their guys. Anyway, so that's where the deck is. Like I said, you can experiment with adding ad libitum if you really like the Branded in Red into Chimera combo using ad libitum to reset the Mirror Jade. I found that Quem kind of took ad libitum's job in that aspect, so feel free to play around with it. And that's it. Hope you all survive Super Heavy Samurai and they're not the most broken thing ever.